Oh, do excuse me. I was fascinated by this image. Let me share it with you. Look at this woman. She's all chained and restricted. But if you take a closer look, you would see that the key to the padlock that would set her free is right there on her necklace. Let me guess. She can set herself. She has access. Am I right? But she remains silent. She remains restricted. This irony struck me. This photograph or the image perfectly illustrates my topic of speech today: how social stigma results in self-stigma when it comes to depression and learning disorders, mental disorders. Let me shed light on how this silent killer takes life around the globe, and especially in my own country, Sri Lanka. What is stigma? Mental stigma is defined by NHS as follows. Stigma is disrespect, negative beliefs, prejudice, its use of negative words to define a person. It can stop people from seeking help due to fear of discrimination. Self-stigma defines as internalized stigma, where you come to believe the negative messages and the stereotypes about yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, when you look at Sri Lanka, stigma plays a very dominant role against mental well-being. Despite all the psychiatric and the psychological help available in the country, and despite all the awareness programs on mental health that is done across the country, we Sri Lankans are very reluctant to say that I go for therapy or I am taking psychiatric treatment. Why? It's because of one thing: shame, sense of failure, sense of weakness, and most of all, fear of being rejected from your own community. In 2016, a study was done by Dr. Sunera Fernando and her research team in Sri Lanka on the delaying effect of stigma on mental health, help seeking in Sri Lanka. These are the findings. 23.7% of individuals have entirely rejected psychiatric treatment due to social stigma, and 18.6% has delayed seeking professional help, once again due to stigma. This is tragic. Why is this? It shows how profoundly we are just relying on some misconceptions and how it is going to steal away the happiness and the well-being of a community. Did you know that stigma works in a cycle? Look at this killer cycle. It starts with depressive symptoms. For example, you may have lack of sleep, lack of appetite, isolating from friends, family, and also maybe you feel really having a chronic sadness throughout. Now, these are very good enough reasons for you to go get a consultation. You would be helped. But it's sad that most of the Sri Lankans would not take this path as the first thing. Instead, they would just go for alternative approaches and home remedies. Why? Once again, one word: stigma. Self-denial. How come I have a mental illness? How would the world treat me after knowing that? So this make them skip it and go on just with the traditional approaches. Here you see some images of traditional approaches used to heal your mind, mostly common in Sri Lanka, and people get psychological comfort. Pujas, blessings, performing toil ceremonies, and healing prayers. Yes, these are so good. These are good practices. Yet, what's wrong here? If you have severe depressive symptoms, that means there is a chemical imbalance in your brain. And there is a depletion of neurotransmitters as serotonin and dopamine. Now, this needs immediate clinical intervention. And if you do not do that, the life of that person would be at risk, sadly. So, when you come to back to the cycle, when you come to the severe state, people just take you back to the final resort. That is the hospital. There you get mentally diagnosed. Once again, stigma comes in. And that person who is suffering anyway is getting further and further depressed due to being rejected, labeled. People don't want to get close to them, thinking that they're harmful. How sad. And this is the situation. And the depression further goes higher and higher. So now, again, the fear of stigma comes, again, avoidance. So this cycle spins on and on and on until we make a conscious decision to change our perspective towards mental well-being. As we all know, misconceptions and all the false ideologies is what form stigma. Now, UNICEF has pointed out 7 such misconceptions. Today, let's go through 3 of them. Myth number 1, if you have a mental health condition, you have low intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, can somebody tell me who's the genius who came up with this notion? Research has proven that there is no such connection between mental illness and a person's IQ. Even a student who gets A grades all the time can get depressed. It's just the circumstances. Myth number 2, mental health disorders is not an issue for teenagers. They just have mood swings, hormonal imbalances, and they're seeking attention. Parents, yes, we understand that your teenage boy or the girl is going through a mental, emotional roller coaster. Well, it's evident to us too. Dramatic door slams and frequent eye rolls, screams, and of course, 24/7 selfies, obsessive selfie taking. Right, so all these things are there to say, oh, she's a teenager. He's just what a teenager is. But let us not take it that lightly. Sometimes, to get a better idea, it is important for us to go with solid stats and facts. I guess this will help you a little bit. So, globally, 166 million adolescents have been diagnosed with mental disorders. Depression, anxiety, and behavioral disorders are among the leading causes of illness and disability among adolescents. And the most alarming one is the 4th leading cause of death among the adolescents is suicide. 3rd myth, well, last but least, not the least, I would correct it last but the worst. Being mentally sick is a sign of weakness. Are these faces familiar to you? Some of them are really admirable, and we like them. We enjoy their work. Let me tell you 2 things that is common to all of them. 1, undeniable success and strength to go towards their success journey despite their mental disorders. Number 2, they are openly declaring that they have gone through a struggle and have started being advocates for mental well-being. So, who is weak? Who is strong? It's up to us to decide. So, when 1 in every 8 people around the globe is being diagnosed with mental disorders, there's very little doubt that some of us, are already in this special category. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm no exception. During my teenagehood, I went through a very painful episode of depression. Stigma terrified me. Stigma muted me. My friends drifted away from me thinking, oh, she has been acting weird lately. And I wept silently, not knowing what to do, how to justify myself to them. Every time I tried to disclose, my inner self stigma spoke out. What are you trying to do? Do you think they will believe you and accept you after that? Therefore, I kept it hidden, silent, all this time, up to this very day. Today, I'm proud to say that I acknowledge I've broken my self-stigma as an individual, which has haunted me for so long. Let me wind up my speech with this message. It's high time we make a change. And change in a perspective related to mental well-being. Let us just cast away all the negative, petty, primitive ideas and embrace each other with love and kindness, despite their imperfections. Just close your eyes for a second and look at your inner self. Are you chained to, just like that woman in the picture? If so, release yourself. Make yourself heard and reach out. Remember, being strong does not mean you have to hide your flaws. Let us work towards a future where each and every individual is loved, cared, heard, and valued. Thank you.